According to these guys, as a woman, I did not know what I was talking about. Welcome back to Reddit Chronicles. Today we're gonna do Petty Revenge. Here are the titles. If you're new here, do consider subscribing to help me feed my cat. Much appreciated. Let's get started. This may be the pettiest thing I have ever done. So in my city, there is a pub that's attached to a donut shop that serves the best donuts in the city, which always causes a long line. Because it's attached to a pub, it doesn't close shop until 9 p.m, as there's a solid flow of business rolling in. Anyway, my girlfriend and I get a serious hankering for some snacks, so we decide to head to the donut shop and arrive out around 8:30 p.m. by car. Now, there are only 3 parallel parking spots a little bit up the street from the place, and they're all about 15-minute spots which are usually full. We see up the street that, count our lucky stars, a spot is free. My girlfriend pulls a little ahead of the car in front of the spot, turns on her indicator, and begins backing into the parking slot when this little white Vespa driving behind us whips into the spot. I roll down our windows and call out to the driver, "Excuse me, we were just backing in." The driver seems to be a pretty university student who shrugs her shoulders and calls out to me, "Sorry, first come, first serve," while her and her friends share a good laugh. My girlfriend suggests that we just get donuts another time, and I tell her that she can drop me off here. I'll buy the donuts since I know what she likes, and she can loop around. She agrees, and I pop out of the car, past the little white Vespa where the girls are still gathering their things, and head to the shop. As always, the line is super long for donuts, and since there is the last batch, the donuts are slim pickings. The girls are behind me looking at the 5 or so different flavors that are left, talking about which ones are best and which they haven't had yet. I heard one of them jokingly mention, "Thank God we got a parking spot," and they burst out laughing. I get to the front of the line and then asked for my order, request 2 dozen donuts, which is every last one remaining. The girls behind me didn't listen to what I ordered, but eyebrows of confusion started to form on their faces, and they slowly saw each donut loaded into the boxes and their options dwindle. One of them, the driver, in desperation asks the baker who was loading them in, "What, you're not even gonna save a few for us though?" To which I turned around and said, "Sorry, first come, first serve." She honestly looked like she just simultaneously solved a movie mystery and crapped her pants. It's difficult to put into words, but truly an expression I can never forget. Best donuts I ever tasted and enjoyed by the rest of my office the next morning. Now that is petty revenge done right, and he uses the exact same logic and words that she used too. Flawless. So I'm married to a wonderful woman. She's smart, funny, and very kind. Her mother is generally very nice and tends to have a great attitude and be very enjoyable. A bit of a prude, but generally enjoyable. However, can be a bit of a major snoop. If my wife leaves her phone sitting around, she'll just pick it up and start going through it. My wife has kind of laughed it off as a remnant of her mom being controlling when she was a kid. I'm not a fan of this because my wife and I will sometimes text about things that simply don't involve her mother and I don't feel are her business at all. So over Christmas, I saw my wife set her phone down in the kitchen counter and I had a brilliant idea. Her mom was still in the kitchen and I sent my wife the most depraved text about all the things I was going to do to her when everyone left. Honestly, most of the things we haven't even done, but I had to make it extra scarring. I sent this text from the bathroom. And maybe it was my imagination, but I could swear I could hear an audible gasp shortly after her phone went off. When I went out, her mother absolutely would not look me in the eye, and then not so discreetly asked her daughter to come talk to her in the other room. When my wife came back into the living room, I thought she had been crying. However, upon closer inspection, she was laughing. Her mother had questioned her about me abusing her and if I always talked down to her like that. My wife had told her kindly that what we do is between us and us only. Probably the best gift this Christmas. I would have to agree, and those are the best kinds of women to marry, the evil ones. On mobile, forgive my text wall. This happened to me last night. I got in my car to pick up my girlfriend and my tire pressure light came on. I have a 12-volt air compressor in my backseat, but it's loud and fills sort of slowly, so I opted to drive to the local Wawa. For those who don't have Wawa, it's like if 7-Eleven got sober and went to college. So I guess a convenience store at a gas station or something like that. Wawa's air pumps are free to use, which usually means there's at least a few cars lined up. But when I pulled up in the area, there was only one other car. Score. I pulled behind the guy filling his tires, and an older gentleman in a BMW pulled in behind me. After about 3 minutes, a woman in a brand new Lexus pulls up directly next to me and puts her window down. "I only have to fill one tire. Do you mind if I go in front of you?" she asked. I said, "Actually, I do. We've been waiting here for a little bit. Sorry." She muttered something while rolling her windows up, and I put up mine. About a minute later, the guy at the pump was done. He backs up, and before I can even put my car in gear, Lexus woman pulls her car in front of mine, diagonally, blocking me from pulling into the spot, and then pulls straight in after the first guy has moved. She climbs out of her car and gives me the most infuriating little wave. At this point, my anger gives way to a ninja-like calm, and I know exactly what must be done. I pull my car forward and stop about 6 inches from her rear bumper. The air pumper is in the corner of the lot, so Lexus woman has a curb in front of her, a curb to her right, where the pump is, an open spot to her left, and now my dirty car right behind her brand new one. She's busy filling her tire and doesn't notice that I've pulled right up to her car. I step out of my car, grab my air compressor from the backseat, and start setting it to fill up my tire. Mr. BMW, who has remained completely still and silent, sees what I'm doing and asks if I can fill his tires too. I say, "Of course," and motion for him to park in the empty spot next to Lexi lady's left. As soon as he pulls in, she notices what's happening and starts yelling. I flip on my air compressor and begin filling my tire. Her crowds drown out by the sound of 250 psi of justice. She comes and stands in front of me, face beet red and little flecks of spittle popping out from between her cigarette teeth as she calls me all sorts of names. I calmly say, "Ma'am, I only have to fill one tire. You don't mind, do you?" Mr. BMW is absolutely loving this, and as I finish my tire and move to fill his, she starts up again. "You mother effers, effing piece of crap, a-holes, etc." Maybe she didn't actually say the etc. part. I finish Mr. BMW's tire, and he thanks me for my help, climbs into his car, and pulls away, grinning. I wrap my compressor up nicely, pick a good song, and set my climate control to a balmy 82 degrees. All while Lexus lady is trapped in front of me. I calmly back up, give her a little wave, and drive off into the night. TLDR, lady takes my spot at the air pump, I block her in, and fill my tire and the gentleman behind me with my own very slow, very loud compressor. Another story of justice being served. 250 psi of justice to be exact. This happened a couple years ago. It had snowed a bunch, and so I went out to clear a spot for my boyfriend at the time for when he got home from work. He's a police officer. I spent a while digging it out, and I was finishing up when some girl drove up and parked in it, while I was still shoveling it. I told her that I just dug it out, intending to use it, and asked her to move, and she didn't. She then got out of her car and walked away. Turns out she lived 2 buildings down, so she normally wouldn't park there anyways. Our complex had a mini snowplow, and the dude was plowing in the area and saw this all go down. He helped me move all the snow from the pile he just created and put it all around her car. We buried it up to the door handles on all sides. He then dug out a new spot for me. Saw her later trying to dig out her car. Turns out she didn't have a shovel. So naturally, because I'm petty, I went out and reshoveled the sidewalk from the lot up to our building and threw all of the snow on her vehicle while I did it. Then went inside and took my shovel with me. Another nice story of petty revenge. Seems like a pretty common theme is parking spots. My ex-husband and I bought our home from his parents. They had the house built in the 50s. For years, father-in-law wanted to install a shut-off valve in the utility room to, shut off the water to the whole house to do some repairs. Plumber told him it would cost a large amount of money because they could not find the shut-off from the city water main at the street. The Buffalo Box, also known as water main shut-off valve. Since the Buffalo Box was MIA, they would have to freeze the pipes to stop the water before installing the shut-off valve. It was an expensive process to freeze the pipes, so it never got done. When we bought the house, we decided to get the shut-off valve installed. We called the water department and they sent 2 workers to shut off the water. When they arrived, I explained the problem. They went out to the front yard, walked around a bit, and told me there was nothing they could do for me. According to the 2 workers, it was my problem that they could not find the Buffalo Box and that I should call a plumber to dig up my front yard, sidewalk, and the city easement to find my Buffalo Box. Well, I have a background in residential real estate construction, and I was familiar with how water mains and Buffalo Boxes are installed, and I told them it was the city's issue as they were responsible for the Buffalo Box, not the homeowners. According to these guys, as a woman, I did not know what I was talking about, and they left. They were incredibly rude about it, but peons like these think they can get away with being rude to an ignorant woman like me. Fast forward to a year or so later, I get a call from the city manager asking why I hadn't paid my water bill for over a year. I told them that I wanted to pay my water bill, but I wanted them to first turn off my water. He was a bit taken aback that I wanted them to turn off the water. So, I explained what the city workers told me about locating the buffalo box, and their attitude about women not understanding these types of things. I also told him that if the city could not turn off my water, I would be happy to have free water, forever, because I would never pay another bill. We had a nice long chat about the situation, and he said that he would resolve my concerns. The next day, these same two guys show up at my house with some digging equipment and spend the whole day digging up the easement on the sidewalk. Their attitudes were rather somber because the city manager told me he was going to give them a talking to about how they mishandled the situation. I even got an apology. They found the buffalo box under the city-owned sidewalk. They fixed the buffalo box so that it would be accessible and came the next day to fix the sidewalk. They asked if I wanted the water turned off, declined, and I told them I would have my plumber take care of it when we had him install the interior shutoff valve. And then I paid the water bill. So imagine that. The city calls her, saying that if she didn't pay her water bill, they'd shut off her water. And she's just like, okay, go ahead and try. Priceless. If you like that video and you want more, and you want to help me feed my cat, drop me a like and a subscribe to make sure you never missed another video. If you thought petty revenge was too light, and you'd like to see some pro revenge, or another subreddit entirely, I've got you covered. Just click one of these boxes right here. See you in the next episode of Reddit Chronicles.